sanctify you holy.
Well, shout out to everyone who's rolling in. Thank you again for joining us this evening. I'm so excited to be joined with the wonderful, talented, always funny, witty Caroline Golum.
Thank you for having me. This is really neat.
A true heartwarming soldier of film in New York City. Such a privilege to have you join me tonight.
Man, I'm never, so I should also say, like, I don't mind copying to this early, but like I've never been on Instagram Live before. So
You've
this
never
is,
been on Instagram.
yeah, I know. It's to my detriment. And I try not to dwell on it, but it's too late now because it's just a mall. A mall with great cultural things also happening at the same time, like all social media. It's like a mall where people are also doing DIY stuff.
It very much is a shopping center. You're absolutely right. That's a wonderful way of explaining what's going on here in the metaverse. We're going shopping pretty much.
Yeah, it's a shopping center that people are also like, to not to belabor this metaphor, but like it's a shopping center where there's like a Spencer's Gifts, and then there's like an abandoned storefront that people are showing movies in, like right next to the Spencer's Gifts. That's happening, right? It's all just becoming like a dead mall that we're renting DIY spaces in.
Wow, wow. And I mean, coupling with the fact that they're, trying to silence half of the Black community.
I know.
Well, but,
do.
I still find my spiritual memes here, and, that's plenty for me at this time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not an Instagram person, but I am active on Twitter to a perhaps troubling degree. And, it's the same thing over there too. Like it's a dead mall where instead of storefronts that are DIY spaces, you just have people that kind of like flyer. I think of it as like a bunch of town criers or like people flyering with like broadsheets.
It's funny. I was telling someone how it feels to constantly self promote, promote your business. And I was like, honestly, I feel like an old flyer club kid promoter,
Yeah.
Like that's the new version of it. Just
as somebody who is, well, because you consider cinema to be part of nightlife, and I want to talk about that too, because I really like that distinction, and it didn't occur to me in so specific a way until you pointed this out. But like in hindsight, it makes total sense. Like all of my life in film in New York, certainly, and probably a lot of yours, that it's wedded to nightlife in this way. But like, do you think that the flyering is going to come back? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old fashioned, but I'm wondering whether or not people are going to make the move away from this digital ephemerality that's controlled by billionaires who can delete everything quickly to like something a little bit more tangible.
Well,
that's the hope.
Get started. I would love for you to first introduce yourself to
our gosh. Really and I have to record.
Let me also just, for anyone who's new to Alfreda Cinema, or even a spectacle where Caroline is actually calling in from, or connecting through. Alfreda Cinema has been an ongoing series throughout New York City, where for very much a roving cinema, so to speak, and we bring Black film programs to various theaters around New York City, primarily operating out of Metrograph for the last 4 years. But we also have some upcoming programs, and I just want to shout those out. December 9th, I'll be doing a sort of a Just Above Midtown inspired shorts program through the work of Sandy Wilson and Franza Woods, two Black women filmmakers who, in my opinion, have also just decided to do it ourselves in terms of, the rhetoric and behind and pushing their filmmaking forward. So I'll be presenting that alongside African Film Festival. And in January, we have quite a few. I just confirmed another event, but I'm excited to promote that. And then I'll be at Film Forum January 17th, presenting Ashes and Embers, Haile Garima's incredible masterpiece. And following that, I'll have a discussion with Yasmina Price. But you know, and getting moving forward with our conversation tonight, I had previously mentioned that I'm joined by, the wonderful writer and film programmer herself, as well as filmmaker Caroline Golum, who I've had the pleasure of working with at Spectacle when we did our program Jack Your Body.
I know. I was rereading the page for that today and thinking about it because it was 3 years ago, which feels like 3 dog years ago. But I also wanted to I wanted to make sure that like you also get like proper acknowledgement on behalf of Spectacle for coming through with some really great streaming programming for us when we were very new to the idea, and like all the theaters were scrambling and like trying to stay like, in front of people when they couldn't be open, you know. You brought some really incredible work to our humble little Twitch stream, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. And I was so glad that we got to work together, even under this very fraught circumstance. It's like a less than ideal. Like ideally, we would have done this program in theater, and it would have like sold out the $10 ticket, but we couldn't do it that way. But we did a great fucking show. Like to like learn as it was going on too, which was even crazier. Like really.
I had no idea what Twitch was before you and I did the screening of Deborah Robinson's I Be Dem Ben Was Is. Yeah. I often get that title
like,
wrong.
On Zoom and everything too. Like I had to come up with all these weird ways to like triangulate the audio to get, oh my God, like I don't miss that at all. I'm so glad that you're doing programming like in the flesh now again, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and like we shouldn't negate streaming as a very valuable component of the medium, obviously.
We definitely had to learn on the fly, but
yeah, very much.
There guiding us, not really breaking a sweat, but she really sailed us through.
I was really breaking a sweat. You just couldn't tell because it was on Zoom, and I have my camera. Anyway,
well, I'd love for you to talk to our audience and tell them a little bit about what you do and what projects you have coming up, as well as a little bit about the film you're working on.
Sure. I do a lot of different things. I am a filmmaker, but it's a really time-consuming and costly effort. So my film credits aren't as numerous as my credits elsewhere because it's cheaper and easier to write about films, or even sometimes program films and introduce them, than it is to like get a bunch of people together to make a film, obviously. But as a filmmaker, I made a movie called A Feast of Man that's streaming for free on Tubi with ads. And I'm working on another film that we're hopefully going to shoot early next year called Revelations of Divine Love. We crowdfunded like half the budget back in March, which was really cool. And I've been working on this movie for 6 years, and it's set in the 14th century because I wanted to do something really easy for my second movie. So I decided to make a fucking period film for no money, like a genius. And
it's going to be a masterpiece.
I fucking hope so. Because if not, then I've wasted not only everybody else's time, my time too, which is very valuable to me. I just want to be done with it so I can make a movie about baseball. So like at this point, it's just, I just got to tie up those loose ends. I got to like close the loop on it. Anyway, so I do that. I write about movies, primarily for Screen Slate, which was founded by my good buddy, John. And I also occasionally will appear on the Screen Slate podcast, which is a very entertaining listen if you are a pervert who listens to podcasts. And I program films as well. And I found out this morning, I was looking up a program that I did with Cinebeasts like a long time ago, which is my entree into film exhibition, which was one of your questions. And I will go in depth on later. But I looked it up and I found like the old Facebook event for it. And it was from 2012. So I've been finding some way to exhibit films in New York, other people's films in New York, for like a decade now, which I didn't realize until like this morning. And we're coming off of a week of me feeling older this past week than I ever have at any week in my life. So it's been like a wild ride today, like thinking about, oh, you know how it is whenever people ask you about what do you do and like what are your credentials, and whether in like a convivial and totally stress-free setting like this, or when people are like, prove your value. Like, prove to me that you know what you're talking about, and you have to itemize the things that you've been doing for such a long time. It makes one feel humble, proud at once, and also old. At least it does for me. Like, I feel like I look at a long list of stuff going back years, and I'm like, wow, I've been kicking around that long, huh? And it just proves theory. Seriously, it proves my theory that if you hang in there long enough, sooner or later somebody's bound to respect you just because you're still there. And I haven't even been at it that long, really.
I mean, 10 years is a lifetime in this industry, I got to say, because, you know, people come up, it's a dime a dozen, almost as many film programmers out there as there are like DJs at this point.
The DJ thing is a good comparison too, because it is like a curatorial expertise that you bring to a public nightlife setting, right? And there are a lot of people who go to a party, like I always believe that, like, if you know what you're doing, then like part of the skill is like making it look easy, or not easy, but making it look seamless or somewhat effortless. And like, as someone who's, as you know, been known to dabble in DJing a little bit, like, you know, there are a lot of people I think who go to parties and they see very skilled DJs, not like me, but like you or other skilled DJs. They see them working their magic. Thank you. Well, so you see DJs doing, you know, doing their trade, and like you think, oh, you know, oh, you're just playing records, how long gonna be? Like, I'm sure there are people who think that all the fucking time.
Oh my God, it's much harder than I anticipated it to be. Getting started, I often find myself mentally in a fetal position after listening to a mix, but you know, I really don't feel as alive as I do when I'm on the decks playing for people, and really just them enjoying the music at the same time. Like, they're not necessarily paying attention to your mistakes. They're really there to enjoy themselves, and I love having that exchange with them.
It's very galvanizing, in a good way. Like, it really electrifies one to be able to present something that you care about to a captive audience of people and forge with them that connection across the transom, and to see, you know, in an audience's reaction, whether it's to a film program or a really great mix or a monologue or whatever, like to see other people react to that in the same space as you, even the same virtual space, like on a chat or something, if you're doing it online, to see that happen in real time is really beautiful, you know, because it's not easy. It's really hard. It can be very thankless. You know just as well as anybody that, like, DJing, film programming, any kind of like performative thing that you do for a group of people, a public thing that you do, can be very thankless. But when people get something from it and you see that and you talk to them, even if it's like one person who liked the movie, or like there's two people that show up and they both liked it or whatever, it feels right? Like, it's important because it's like, it's a warm feeling. We should feel these warm things amongst ourselves in public space as much as possible.
Totally. And you know, to then see people's, like, see it sort of vibrate, you know, off of like the screen and into like social media, or like, you know, and then, you know, people sort of or just sharing that. Like, there was a post that I had done of this Thomas Edison film called like Laughing Gas, and all I did was post a Black woman from like the 20s laughing her head off, and it just, that shot alone, you know, that got like 5,000 impressions, and I was like, wow. And it's maybe like 20 seconds of just, you know, this Black woman go, but to see, like, you know, your ancestors like on the screen in that fashion, I mean, it's completely groundbreaking. Like, and it's interesting how, you know, even antiquated looking footage translates into this new like platform, is very technically advanced communication, like, you know, device and platform, and just seeing how people are completely at all, or, you know, just totally admired, you know, of it. And I mean, I think the people who are like doing this work, the people who are you know, sharing the films, sharing the music, like, these people are people we really need to take seriously in terms of holding them accountable.
It's true. I mean, the footage that you're talking about is like over 100 years old, and it still has an enchanting quality because the moving image will enchant us forever, you know, like, and by us, I mean, like, we as like a, you know, a species on this earth, like, for as long as we've been making art, it's been in movement and we've been entranced by it. And cinema too, like, is a medium that's now existed across 3 separate centuries, because it was invented in the late 19th century. We've come out of the 20th century, like, more than 2 decades now. And like, people are still making movies. Every few years you hear somebody say, oh, movies are like, this is it, time to close the chapter on movies. I guess we're done with movies now. Like,
people have been saying that for decades.
Since TV, like 70 years ago when TV came out, they were like, time to wrap it up with movies. But like, no, you just show movies on TV. And it's all, you know, it all becomes like part of the same moving image. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot where we were going with this. But like, you know, you're sharing it and it getting that reaction that it did from people, you know, it's a testament to like how important that footage still is, even though it's 100 years old. And it's a condensing of time too. Like all movies are kind of a condensing of time because you can define time in the moving image in a way that you can't necessarily with other media. That's why it's called time-based medium, which is a term I just learned this year. And also like there's a flattening that occurs when we're sharing images on social media too, right? Because like we're looking at this thing in real time. It's from 100 years ago. It's from a completely different place. We're probably finding out about this because it was posted or reposted by somebody who may not be anywhere near us at that moment too, like hours away or like days away. It's just this, it's this like, I don't even know if it's like a flattening of time. I think it all just becomes like a constant vibrating orb of time. I'm getting very Shirley MacLaine with this right now, but like, it's like a sphere of time that's like constantly in motion. I don't know.
You're onto something. And
yeah,
I'm
you know what I mean.
so incredibly happy to be able to capture your brilliance in this moment.
I know I'm really in that kind of mood right now. I think it's because of the eclipse last week. I mean, I got your questions and I was like, well, I want to make sure I answer these properly because I know that you like took the time to make this agenda, but I don't want to ramble too much.
I appreciate that. I mean, you know, being a woman who you know, operates in not just nightlife, but in specifically New York City film exhibition and our community, you've been really tenacious and dedicated and totally steadfast about, you know, not only bringing in people like myself to spectacle, but really just making sure that there is such an expansive array of, you know, film programming and I mean, specifically at the spectacle, I believe, where you primarily, you know, focus your attention. And, you know, as much as Alfreda Cinema hopes to really inspire in the same way as spectacle theater, you know, I'm sure it's not easy for you all, you know, to also to rely on a steady crowd. But, you know, you do your best, I think, as far as just being very versatile with programming.
Mm-hmm. Part of it. I mean, I think that like our description at Spectacle, and for anybody tuning in who's not familiar with Spectacle Theater, brief spiel. All volunteer run micro cinema in the heart of Williamsburg. Every movie is $5 unless it's a special event, then it's $10, cash only. And because it's all volunteer run, we're a non-hierarchical organization, so we're like a horizontally integrated. There are like different working groups, like people who have different specialties. Some people are like good with the website, or like in the pandemic I helped with the streaming, or like you know, repairs or building benches and chairs and things. You know, there's always something to do, or just working a shift at the booth like I did on Monday, taking tickets and running the movie. Like everybody's got something to do, and it all has equal weight and equal value as a contribution to the upkeep of the organization. And our little thing that we tell people is we show lost and found and unseen film. I don't remember the exact, I should have looked this up before I came on, or had it up on my iPad. I don't know. But if you go on the website, it says it. Like, basically, we're just going to show the movies that you don't see anywhere else in the city. And it's one of those things where if you know, again, you hang around long enough, like we had our 10th anniversary in 2020, but also if you fly, like not necessarily under the radar, but like outside or like on the fringe, you get away with so much stuff. And like, because we're all volunteer oriented or organized, like we're all run, you know, we can do everything kind of by consensus and talk things out in a way that isn't hierarchical. We're member supported primarily, so we don't have to answer to like major donors or corporations or like real estate interests that are trying to money launder their blood money through the arts or whatever, you know, the case may be. There's a lot of it in the nonprofit industrial complex, as you know, a lot of money laundering. So, you know, we don't have to answer to anybody else but ourselves. And that's like why I think we have endured as a repertory cinema in New York, because like I mean, first of all, New York City is very special in that we can sustain so many different repertory cinemas that have varying degrees of institutional support or corporate support or whatever. But like the fact that we've been able to hang in there, I think is because we can just do whatever we want. Which does lead to, I mean, I know that this is like later on in your questions, but I want to say that like part of why your project is so essential is because you're making a space that is also not going to be beholden to these things, you know, like it's a thing wholly of your own making that serves a mission that is dear to you, that's also vital for the seventh art overall as a medium, and vital for film exhibition in New York City, for nightlife as well, which is important. I know I say nightlife in like a flip way, but nightlife is really important.
It absolutely is. It's the life's blood of this city, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an integral part of like city life. I just finished reading very briefly, I'll say, Samuel Delaney's Times Square Red, Times Square Blue, which is about movie going and also nightlife, and about the import of commons, like common places where people meet across classes and cultures because they have a shared affinity for something, whether it's going to a pornographic film or going to a regular film or going dancing or doing this or that. Like you have an affinity for one another and you meet in these spaces because you all have this thing in common. And the idea that we don't yet have a permanent home for Black cinema in New York City that is beholden to itself and its own mission wholly, you know, it's not, I can't say it's shocking to me given that there's not really a lot of institutional support for these kinds of things, but like,
I mean, I'm not gonna say it never existed, but there isn't one open at this moment.
at this moment, right?
Right.
I count that there has been in the past,
For
absolutely.
sure. You know, New York City, I mean, especially Brooklyn, it really had a beautiful sort of epicenter of Black performing arts, equally Black cinema spaces. And I will also add that Black film spaces have often looked like bars or church basements, you know, to the like. And in addition, I have to shout out Jesse Maples, 20 West, and Moy Gancy, who runs Image Nation. She also had the Soul Cinema before they unfortunately had to shut down due to COVID, and that was primarily a Black film space. So I mean, you know, this is definitely the work that other Black women, as well as like, you know, people have strived towards. But the fact that I think her space wasn't able to sustain itself, I mean, granted, it had just opened, and it definitely took her like, you know, 10 to 15 years to open that space. You know, it does feel like there is a bit of less of a priority when it comes to, you know, films of people of color. I mean, and being in its own venue. I mean, of course, they're like, you know, like cinemas that do give special attention and routine attention to Black films. I do have to say that, you know, BAM is definitely one of them. And alongside, and sometimes Wheatsville will have various programs. But for me to sit inside, like, to sit in a movie theater seat and to know that this theater is owned by a Black person, all the programming is about Black people or people of color, and you know, this space is safe, this space is healing. Like this isn't benefiting a white narrative, being the fact that like so many arts organizations are often ran by white board members. So, you know, even though it's within your interest, you're still not actually gaining the value, and the financial incentive is very important in all of this. I mean, to build up a neighborhood like Brownsville, which is where I would love to be, where I would love to have our space. Fingers crossed we get this location that I really like. You know, it's so imperative that we give access to this work to the Black community that largely can't access it. And that's mostly due in part because BAM is, you know, now downtown, and like Brownsville, it's almost a 30-minute train ride, or like, um where I'm at, I'm in East Flatbush. You know, I usually ride down there, but it's a 2 zone transfer. Like it's far, yo. It's
Mhm.
far.
Yeah, it's a
Like
long ride too.
yeah, and I'm not saying like those programs aren't worth the distance, or even going up to like MoMA to go see. Just speaking of Just Above Midtown, but the Just Above Midtown exhibit, which I look forward to going to. But it's just I find it ironic because uh, um uh uh well that same institution it rejected so many of those same artists, and now there's this you know retrospective being put on as if we all on some kumbaya shit like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
I
yeah.
didn't want those artists there, and that's why she had to open that space, and now you've turned her life's work into a moratorium almost. But
It's true. And the precedent that you're talking about, the artists and the curators that precede the work you're doing right now, it's it's like so easy for us, I think, and especially in a lot of these like bigger institutions or film institutions to only look at black cinema as like a thing with a history, like just the past of it, and not like the present or the history that's to come or the future of it. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing where people are kind of like you said, retroactively going back and being like, oops, like we fucked up. We should have included this. Like, oh, we can't go back in time and fix this, so we got to do it now, and I think that's commendable to a degree, like better late than never, I guess. But like, it's not, you have to be forward thinking about it. I don't mean just you. I mean, one must be like always forward thinking about it, and in a perfect world, like all the spaces that you were describing could exist concurrently too. Like this idea that there isn't enough attention or resources to go around to accommodate like more than one cinematheque or micro cinema that speaks to, you know, a cinematic history that's attached to a people, a culture, a country, whatever. It's not like there's only room for one. Like there's, or I mean, maybe there is right now because we don't live in the workers' paradise yet. But like one day there will be room for an infinite number of them. You know what I mean?
I hope to bring Alfreda Cinema
Yeah,
to around the globe.
do it.
Putting out there, my next location of operation will hopefully be Brazil.
That would be fantastic.
Because mama needs to have summers and have winters in Brazil.
That would be a great. First of all, write it off because it's work. So automatically you're set. Like every expense that you pay to go there is research. Don't forget. And second of all, like the work that you're doing now, like you're going to open the cinema, and like how many other people are going to go, I want to be a film programmer. Like how many people are going to walk into this space and go, they'll have the, back to our DJ conversation, they'll look at this and maybe they won't go, oh, this is easy, but oh, I want to learn how to do this. Like,
and largely that's why I want the space, the physical space, because I want to pass this work on. I'm getting tired, not necessarily, but I can feel it.
Sure.
I can feel it.
Yeah, it's tiresome.
It for sure is. You get easily exhausted just because of the runaround that you must do. And of course, I'm gratified once everything comes together. But I would love to be able to teach this sort of work, because this isn't something that you can learn in school. You have to learn in the cinema. You have to learn with people. I mean, you have to get that feedback from your audience, and that's the only way to grow. I mean, to come from videology to Metrograph to film for to BAM to all these theaters and be able to have a response the way that I have, it really it encourages me to keep on going and not to quit, not to give up on myself. But like had I let that one program at videology tell me to quit because I only had one person in the space attend, like that would be you would not see me sitting here had I like let that experience decide my future.
Absolutely. I mean, it's sometimes like you program something and one person shows up and it like changes the life of that one person, and that sousson is enough. And sometimes you get a program that nobody shows up to and you think like, oh, maybe this is the universe telling me that I shouldn't devote my life to an art form that's existed across 3 centuries or whatever. But like, it's a vocation, it's a calling, you know what I mean? Like when you have it, you have it. And it requires a tremendous amount of tenacity and like not allowing you know, bad weather or market forces or things beyond your control to like cut the rug out from under you. Like you can't.
Or even COVID.
That too, you couldn't let I mean, I saw you at more than one like outdoor dance party, and I remember telling, like, you know, we were talking about this, like, you can't keep people from dancing in New York City. Like, I really and truly was like, oh, this is going to be the thing that kills movie theaters and dance parties, or movies and dancing. And like, neither of those things happened as far as I know. Like, maybe the market driven iterations of those things took a hit.
Yeah.
But ones that were labors of love or communal efforts that were brought about by people who are passionate in a truly deep and spiritual way, you know, about the medium of curation or performance, like that's, you know, those are the people that kept hanging in there, you know, and really, if nothing can stop dance music in New York City, then like nothing is going to stop movie going in New York City either. It's nightlife. Like nothing will stop the nightlife here. You know what I mean? So why not just like open ourselves to this possibility that it can be constantly expanding into different neighborhoods and like different parts of town or different areas of curatorial expertise. I mean, if it were, you know, up to me, and it's not, like there would be a micro cinema in every fucking neighborhood in the city where the people that live in these neighborhoods can experiment with public exhibition, where they can throw parties and have events and screen things, make work and show work, you know, and have it be a completely self-contained, self-iterative thing. I don't know if you ever did an experiment like this in school. I remember this from like grade school science class, where we took like a big 2-liter Coke bottle and we put like, it was like water on the bottom and then a layer of soil. I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. A layer of soil and then like another thing on top. And we had these fish that lived in the bottom. And we had these plants that would grow through the soil, and the roots would like come through, and the fish would like eat the algae off the roots. And then you'd have this soil where these kind of different bugs and things could live, and then you'd have the plants. And it was like a, you know, miniature experiment in like totally vertical agriculture that's completely self-sustaining. Every part of it feeds every other part. And so when I think about like what is the dream vision for the future of film exhibition in New York City in the 21st century, it's a 2-liter soda bottle that's been turned into like a totally self-contained, you know, kind of ecosystem that can self-perpetuate and like feed itself, like nourish itself and allow things to grow in this very, very like, I say self-contained, not like isolated, but like self-sustaining, you know, like the idea that like we can make these things ourselves and we can show them ourselves is what I find most edifying as like a future dream. And your work is going to be an important chapter in that eventuality, I think. Like in my dream vision for like what New York film going is going to be, your work is such an important chapter in that dream vision, you know.
I genuinely hope so, and allow me to take this time to also announce or just, you know, make note of our GoFundMe campaign. These talks, these last couple Tuesday and Thursday nights throughout November are definitely in an effort to you know, help bolster our crowdfunding efforts. We are hoping to reach an $85,000 funding goal. We're currently at just under $12,000. If you want to learn more about our campaign, please follow Alfreda Cinema here on here on Instagram, as well as, you know, just click on those links in my bio. You can find a link directly to our GoFundMe and learn more about you know, what I aspire the space to look like.
You're Oh, well, this is like a perfect segue into your last question about this, you know, in our kind of like agenda of talking points, which is funding and support and like how that happens here. You know, I don't want to speak too much about my ability or lack thereof in some instances to access that support, but like, you know how hard it is to get money for stuff. And it's just astonishing to me, like how many people, you know, when I discuss like your programming with colleagues or associates or friends of mine, like other people that I go to the movies with or know from the movies, like we're all kind of constantly lamenting the fact that like in a just and perfect world, like you'd wake up tomorrow with $1 million in your lap and you'd have this space, you know what I mean? Like, and this is true of so many other artists and curators and filmmakers and people who are trying to perpetuate the lively arts that make our lives worth living at all, you know. Like in what universe is it okay that we all just don't have like millions of dollars to do this? You know what I mean? And it's the thing about this funding is that it's like so few and far between. Obviously there's crowdfunding, which I have some experience with, and it's great, but it's also like you're asking people to give you like their money, and the people that are most likely to support you are the very same people who want to see your programming, which is to say regular people and not like rich sociopaths. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing it right, the work that you make appeals to people who have like a common sense and like an understanding of the world, and want to engage with the work. They're not just like rich people who are in these bubbles all the time. Although if any of them are watching and want to give money to your GoFundMe, they absolutely should. I just want to make sure I don't alienate any rich people who are watching right now. Please give.
I keep calling on Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. I'm sorry I don't know your names, sis, but you know, wash away your white guilt through
Atone.
Put in those Amazon dollars into our efforts. I tell you, it will definitely, you know, it would be a great fuck you to Jeff. You know,
it would be a huge mitzvah
to see like a mega money in a Black film space. I'm sure.
Yeah,
he loves it
because it's the right thing to do. She should also do it to piss off her ugly bald ex. Please like cleanse yourself with your alimony money, former Mrs. Bezos. Please tithe your spoils to the worthwhile mission of Alfreda Cinema. I mean, like, why don't we have millions of dollars? I know we're always like, this is like every phone call that we have is like, what do we
always end up this way?
I know, but it's an important part of the topic though, and that's the other thing is that a lot of these funding opportunities are great, but like this idea of scarcity is so manufactured. Like getting back to the scarcity of attention that like can't support more than one film space that isn't just like a PWI, right? Like any kind of film space that is like not white by default or de facto white or de facto rich or whatever. The idea of scarcity of attention or like even real estate in this city is like totally manufactured, and this scarcity of resources for the arts is also totally manufactured too. Like all these different foundations and nonprofits and stuff that should totally give you money, and me too. Like they're all
ridiculous. The way that we have to like, you know, leap at these people and, you know, put in these applications. I got rejected just on the fact that they decided that my application was in the wrong category.
What?
It's like,
just move it from one folder, like one category folder into another one. That's like
I couldn't believe that was the
so
reason.
rude.
And they were like, we do have money allocated for your neighborhood, but you applied to the wrong category. And it really bothered me. But you know, I can't. It's just it's always something here with these foundations.
Always something. I know. And you know what? Like, the wrong cat. That's just so like fucking nitpicky. Just like put it in a different folder. Just
right. The response could have been, "Oh, we found your you know, your submission so compelling, but we felt it would fit in this category. Would it be all right if we changed it?" Like, I mean, it's just. If it's not one thing, it's, you know, if it ain't one thing, it's another. But and it's so interesting how New York City has so much money to spend these days.
So much,
you know, really, probably all that money is going to be lined of the pockets of, you know, the billionaires who went on to support, you know, these new developments or, you know, Eric Adams's campaign. Like, they're all going to get that money.
Yeah. And these people also don't care about building anything enduring. This is like you know, the last part of Times Square Red, Times Square Blue, which I literally just finished on the train yesterday, which is fresh in my mind for that reason, goes into like the history of the Times Square redevelopment in the 1990s and like how the real estate corporations that like spearheaded this effort had started doing it in the 1960s, and they finally got their wish in the 1990s. Through like the right alchemical combination of like controlled and uncontrolled circumstances, basically. And so they make all these big like so many of these big pronouncements about how the new Times Square is going to be safer for women and families, and how it's all about supporting the arts and keeping Broadway alive and keeping New York's cultural epicenter alive. It's not about that. It's about putting up some big building and like making a ton of money from that building and then just like running out. Like they don't do, nothing that they do is about permanence or like or about being rooted anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it's not about having a space that endures as a site for making art or for cross-class contact or for performance or for like selling hot dogs even, you know? It's not about making a lasting contribution to the fabric of a neighborhood or creating a place where people can continue to weave that fabric together. It's never about that. It's about making a quick buck. That's all it's about. And then of course they all have to like, you know, wash their souls by like allocating, you know, these little slices, these little scraps, and then they keep everybody begging for these scraps. That's all it is.
Y'all see why I asked her to join me? Because, you know, she knows what it's about. You know, the fact that I think we return home and it doesn't feel like a place we can, and this is for people who live outside of the commercial neighborhoods, you know, really bustling neighborhoods. You know, I find people are so, you know, so steadfast to get off the train and go home, get off the train and go home. And then it's like, go home. And then it's like, wake up, go to work, wake up, go to work. I mean, in between that time, we need something. We need, you know, a place of rest, a place of solace. And yes, I do believe a film space, a place for music, even a place to grab coffee if you want. I mean, a place to read, a place to enjoy conversation, you know, with like-minded people, listening to incredible music, because I promise you we will have that. I mean, that is so needed in our day-to-day lives. Like as if, you know, I was opening I don't know, like a methadone clinic. Like that's how needed it is. If you're a heroin addict, what in comparison, I'm opening a methadone clinic because we need that relief.
Yeah, I mean it's a site of care, you know what I mean? Like, and not to, you know, movies are very sexy and cool, and you know, not to be like so schmaltzy about it, but like, you know, like if we go, you know, it's yeah, it's a balm. Like, you know, I mean, there's a lot of like talk, like when people talk about this, they roll their eyes like, oh, the magic of movies. Like, come on, like, what's wrong with that? I don't know, own it. Like, of course we all, and even like all the like arguing about the quality of different films, or like what you think about a different movie or other, or like how you feel about a director's work or other. Like, it's like when like young animals are like learning how to exist around one another and they play fight. Like, I think of it as like a play fighting to learn how to socialize. You know, there may seem like there are a lot of different divisions in terms of taste and stuff and film going, but like fundamentally we all just kind of want the same thing, which is to like always have a place to go to the movies. You know, like, is there any pleasure on this earth? I mean, there are many pleasures on this earth greater than this, but one of life's great pleasures is like when you just like go to a movie by yourself and you don't have anywhere else to be and you can just like go to the movie and hang out. You know, you don't have to check in with anybody. You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to go to work later. You didn't just get off of work. Like, go to a movie by yourself, like on a weekend, or if you're on unemployment, as I have been wont to do for many months at a time. It's fantastic. You're just like hermetically sealed into this like, you know, like pod or like an egg of like stimulus.
What I love about what so many filmmakers have said about the cinema house is that it kept them out of trouble. You know, the streets were rough, even for me. Like, growing up in New York, in Brooklyn in the 90s, it was, you know, changing at that time, but it was also a place of wonderfully creative art form. I mean, I was definitely a kid when Spike Lee was, you know, at his pinnacle. But, you know, for me, instead of hanging out outside where, you know, anything, God knows what could happen, I managed to rustle up enough money or sneak into BAM, you know, after my music lessons. And for me, that's where it just changed my life. You know, it was a friend. It was a babysitter. um, before going home. It really, and I love how it feels sneaky, like you're playing hooky, like, and every time you play hooky, you go to the movies. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
the
the best place to hide out. It's 2 hours. And movies, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when tickets were like a lot cheaper also. So it's also, like it used to be a relatively inexpensive way to just like hide out for a couple hours and hang out. But also, it's just like, it's like, just like time stops, like getting back to this idea that like cinema can turn time into this like constantly, what did I say, constantly vibrating orb, like time stops when you're watching a movie. Like if it's a movie that you really love, like 2 hours flies by like this. I saw a movie at AMC yesterday and they ran the Nicole Kidman, her little like welcome back to the movies ad that she does for AMC. And it's very like, it's popular. It became like a meme online because it's very campy, but like it also is, it resonated with people because it's campy. You know what I mean? Like camp takes the serious and it makes the serious unserious, or it makes the unserious serious. I forget the exact order, but like there's something about this idea of like the movies as a place where time stops and like you can feel things. I mean, it's a third place, like, like a house of worship too. I mean, it's no different than,
pay her for that.
I don't know how much they paid her for it. I'm like fascinated by it because I don't think that the marketing people at AMC could have anticipated that it would become this like camp masterpiece. But it hit people at this time when like the ironic and unironic appreciation of film going like collided.
I haven't seen it, but to see her advertise anything is
She's
hilarious.
like above it in a weird way because she's such a megastar, but also she's our Joan Crawford, and like Joan Crawford in her career, like towards the back half when she was like in her 50s, she was shilling for all kinds of stuff. Catherine Deneuve does commercials all the time. Like no one is above it. Everybody's got to make a dollar. But Nicole Kidman also probably understands that like she has a job because of movies, like she can live well because she's a film star. Like they don't have anything without that medium. Like even the people that become famous now, whether it's online or at the cinema or some combination of the two, like they don't have that level of ubiquity anymore, like nobody does. But like enough about Nicole Kidman. I want you to open this theater tomorrow. Like I'm fucking excited for this. I know you've a ways to go. I know that the money's tight, and I know that you're really like you're working at it to try and get as many eyes on it and as many resources as you possibly can. And you're going to succeed because what you're doing is not only important, but it's also going to bring so much pleasure to so many people. That in and
I mean, honestly, I love this work. Like, this is how I want to live my life. I want to live my life calling up. Like, earlier before we got on the phone, I was speaking to a phenomenal DJ, Black woman DJ, Donna Edwards. And I was like, would you consider, spitting out one of my events? And yes, I can say safely she agreed. And to have that experience with an elder who you admire, whose work is absolutely exquisite, like, see what you're striving for, in this next generation. And of course, it's similar to what she has already experienced in her life, but to see the fact and the importance of, a younger person who saw the impact that it had on the previous generation and knows that it will have an equally important impact on my generation. The fact that, we're even out here, like the fact that I've had this campaign for so long and we haven't reached, the really small amount to opening a space that we're asking for. It does feel a little disheartening, but it's not as though I don't think that, people see the importance. I really just feel like some people, when it comes to funding, they look at a business as something that might not be a necessity in this space of funding. But, to fund a young person, a young Black woman, a woman who has shown and proven their staying power in this community, and having so much heart for this, and equally, having where my events have not just been in theaters but also put on independently, and the experience from those attendees have been, really compelling, and that's what's pushing me forward. That's what's keeping me going, because when I do get the exchange with my audience, and feeling and knowing that they grasp exactly what I was hoping to, transmit. I mean, that's amazing. Like, and you were just about to say cinemas are even like sanctuary, or can be a sanctuary or almost church like. My last program at Metro, that's exactly the tone that I wanted to set, but in more of a meditative way. Using visual art to um, heal the scars of reality. Reality, because what we see on television time and time again are things that induce fear and hatred and separatism and isolation, and but when you can actually execute on a unifying mission, like, enough said.
Yeah.
Give me the money.
Yeah. Give her the money. Come on, guys.
And I haven't done this just one time. Like, it's been 8 years.
And I mean, it's beyond like a matter of just proven expertise, because you absolutely have that. Anybody who's seen your work knows that you're like one of the best in the game. You know what I mean? The sense of like letting the market determine your self-worth as a curator, or like the worth of your mission, it's inaccurate. Like, if we went by the market, like, none of us would feel good about ourselves, because market capitalism is based on making us feel like shit, And even the thing you're talking about, like this culture of fear that's being perpetuated constantly, like, it's that same scarcity mentality. It's that idea that there is not enough to go around for everybody, and I've got to get mine and pull up the ladder from under me. And it's a material scarcity that's manufactured. It's a culture of fear that's manufactured too. The antidote to that is, what you described, like knowledge sharing, knowing that there are people who are inspired by your work, and like not feeling threatened by them, like older people mentoring younger people, and like you're one day being in a position to mentor younger people too. And like, it's not like these are trade secrets that you want to keep bottled up inside. Like, if you're serious about perpetuating something you love, you have to teach other people how to do it, so it keeps going. It's like the end of Fahrenheit 451, where they all like have the books memorized, and they have to like repeat the books to one another so that they don't forget it. It's a transfer of knowledge that's like an essential component of the preservation of anything. You have to combat that scarcity mentality, I think, by believing fundamentally, not just like as an artist or an individual, but like overall, that like we're better than that, and that's a trick. Like, we've been tricked into thinking this, that we should be fearful of one another, or that like somebody else's gain means our lack. That's a trick that's being played on us, and it's like absolutely not true. I really just want Jeff Bezos's fucking ex-wife to like cut you a check, like a big Ed McMahon sized Publishers Clearinghouse check that they bring right to your door. And
lady, that will be spent wisely. We're not doing this to go bankrupt in 5 years. Like, we are here for life.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to throw a big fundraising party when you get your space. I mean, obviously, like, fingers crossed, but like when you do, you have an event, you charge people $10 and you get 200 people that show up. That's $2,000 right there, and you could get a beer and wine sponsorship really easily. That is like one thing I got to say. Any artists, any millionaires who are watching, please cut us a check. Any artists who are watching, here's how you get stuff for free. If you can like offer a tax receipt to people, they'll give you all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of stuff. So,
oh man, the party we gonna have,
have a party.
It's gonna be insane.
Get a bunch of stuff for free, and like free booze, and like sell it to people, like drink tickets and stuff, and charge money. Like, people already want to come through and support and party with you. So like, if you give them the opportunity to do that, it's just funny to me that, like I said, the way that these things get funded on like a communal level is because a bunch of us who aren't rich sociopaths like love each other and want to support each other. Like people who, you know, have more in common probably with like, you know, someone who is like destitute and are paying $10. Like you could be making $100,000 a year and you still have more in common with someone who's destitute than you do with Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. Like that's the level of insane money we're talking about here, you know. But it's that scarcity mentality that they've tricked everybody into thinking is like the, you know, the only way things can be. Doesn't have to be that way.
I don't know. I mean, you almost have to show your tits or go viral, you know, do some twerking to get money rained on you. But truthfully, like, what is going to, you know, not only push the culture forward and push our younger generation to really feel like reconnected to humanity, which is a problem. I think it's to be together, you know,
Yeah.
to be together and to not feel so drained by so many institutions that exist around us today. I mean, the fact that you have to hop on a train, buy some refreshments to get through the day, you know, walk through a space or, you know, watch a film that, like, who owns the AMC? You know? Who owns I mean, these other smaller independent art house films, like where does that even go? Like, do you ever even ask yourself that? Like,
I
does this actually benefit is this actually this money going to benefit my community the same way? Like, this is I always think this, you vote with your dollars, but you know.
well, and also like, you know, part of the pleasure of this like dream of having this 2-ounce Coke bottle self-contained like cinematic ecosystem here is that it's like rewarding for people and that they own it and they like profit from it cooperatively. You know what I mean? Like I don't mean that, you know, it's like a network of a bunch of cooperative cinemas, although that would be great if like everything was cooperatively owned, obviously. But I mean like the people that are maintaining these cinema spaces, like the people that work at these movie theaters, like they don't own a share in the movie theater. You know what I mean? Like it speaks to like the larger labor conditions in this country overall, but like people that are like sweeping up afterwards and taking tickets and running the projector and, you know, keeping the lights on and like maintaining the actual physical space for you to go to, like they don't profit share in this stuff. You know,
No, but
some
this can be the opportunity and the model for that going forward.
yeah, it has to be. I mean, the other thing too is that, you know, like you said, you're building on a very, very rich and lengthy history of Black owned and Black operated film spaces in New York City. And
across the country.
and across, and even like zooming out beyond that, there is like an entire, for as long as there have been movie theaters, there have been like people who own and operate these cinemas and like profit directly from them, you know.
Right. I love watching, and I promise we're gonna teeter off shortly.
We could
But
keep on for
I love watching um like spaces sort of get open in, you know, parts of Africa. Like, I love to see those community run spaces like operating there, or in the Middle East. I mean, there's so many film programmers of color who I'm like fully inspired by, who are just really bringing dynamic programming, and it's not like bottom tier, it's top shelf.
Mhm.
It's top shelf. Like, what? And I get that, you know, you might just want to run in to see the latest Marvel movie. Like, fine, you know, we might show that on 35 millimeter. I don't know, but um there has to be a balance, you know, like show that, and then like tomorrow morning, you know, we show sidewalk stories.
Yeah, they should absolutely all like kind of exist concurrently on the same plane too. I was reading this very comprehensive biography of Buster Keaton earlier this year.
Read a lot.
I don't read them, not as much as I used to because I don't take the train. But I was reading this really long Buster Keaton biography earlier this year, and he's like, you know, this is a guy who was like born the year that Georges Lumiere like first exhibited a movie in France. So the man is as old as cinema itself, right? And his career as a performer like coincided with the shift from live performance to cinema, at least in this country. Like he starts in vaudeville as like a child and then becomes a film star. And the moment when cinemas, like little cinemas, start to proliferate around the country, like the earliest cinemas that existed here, at least in the States, were storefronts with folding chairs, a projector, and a screen. And like that sounds like 8 places that I've been to the movies at in the last year. You know what I mean? Like, how many screenings have you been to in New York that are like somebody's got a room, some folding chairs, a projector, and a screen? And this is a replicable formula for exhibiting film that you can literally bring anywhere. Like you could put it anywhere. It doesn't even have to be a storefront. You could do it in like an easy up. You could do it in a cave. Like you could do it behind a barn at night. Like as long as you've got chairs and like a screen and a projector, like a surface to project on and some chairs. I mean, I forget the name of the festival, but there's this like Greek film festival. I think it's in Santorini. Could be wrong. That projects films on the sides of these like old, you know, houses and buildings and stuff. Like
I love the Gregory Markopoulos.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Well, maybe it's
Tenemos, I think.
there's Tenemos, which is his like thing. It's like at his ancestral estate. But then there's, I think Santorini is the Super 8 one, where they do Super 8 films like on the sides of buildings. It's very Greek to like show your movie outside on the side of a building.
I'm not gonna lie, my fantasy is to definitely have a beach screening this summer, but not like on the water like we did with the Daughters of the Dusting, but definitely in that same vein of Tenemos. The fact that people travel across the world to go to that one screening, one night, mind you. To watch these films and I guess it's the forest, but it's like I love it. I love films outside. That's such a thing for me.
Yeah, you did a great program of outside films earlier this year that it's like one of my top screenings of the year.
Open air screenings, I gotta see. Yeah, that program with Rockaway, shout out Rockaway.
Yeah.
Mainly everyone's takeaway was the music videos, but for me, like being able to show Barbara McCullough's Urban Ritual, Water Rite of Passage. I love the way that that film just culminated with the natural elements, and even you and I both mentioned this, the baptism scene for me, like, and that was silent, like allowing nature to score that film. Wow.
It was breathtaking. It was such a profound like bodily experience for me at the cinema. It was so wonderful. I'm excited for your work to have a permanent home, but I hope that you also continue to do this kind of movable feast of programs, because so much of the work that you do, can be very site specific, and that site specificity and the way that you change it and adapt it to so many different sites of film watching or film going I think it's one of your great strengths as an artist, and it's something that, like, to me, when I think about like your work as a curator, like you do so many different kinds of film screenings and so many different kinds of spaces. So like, are you gonna?
I'm very lucky to have been embraced, and to really just kind of just go wild, go nuts. I'm almost like over indulging myself on a continuous basis, and I'm like, how can I ever stop this? Like, I cannot.
So you're gonna keep doing it after you open the theater?
We'll see. We will see. We'll see.
It's a lot of work, admittedly, to move your screenings from place to place to place, and to program site specific things, and I'm sure also like having a permanent place for your programming is going to take precedent, but
yeah,
it's something.
I look forward to the steadiness and the routine and the dailiness You know, I do feel like there's a limitation when I'm, you know, working for a particular cinema. You know, I'm thinking about their numbers and
Mm.
not exactly the kind of art form. But I think what really helped me to sort of propel past that was online streaming, where I noticed that it was undeniable that being true to myself as a programmer equated so much more in of an impact than just like programming a standalone feature film. I mean, when I take the further leap, especially when I'm doing shorts and short form and found footage programs coupling audio, like that resonates more with my audience than anything else. And it's telling me to be much more daring, to go like harder in that direction. I mean, but those are also very cathartic programs. Like I'm like going through a very therapeutic exchange when I do those, only because, you know, those are things that I pulled on to pull me out of some, you know, depressing state. Or that's just what films do for me. They heal me. They restore me. And, you know, I then use that to determine the next program, because I know that that's what other people need. At least that's what I feel. I mean, I would love to give them that. I mean, that's kind of what I like speaking to, the fact that, you know, this helped me and I found these things and they just restored me. Like, and if anyone's feeling this way, you know, maybe watch this program and maybe it'll rejuvenate you as well. It's very much like meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you accrue an audience over time. You know, it's like not the kind of thing that just emerges fully formed when you start making work. It has to like kind of snowball in that way. And it's been very, what's the word I'm looking for? It gives me a lot of like nachas, which is like the gratification of watching somebody who's like fed and content and happy, is like the rough translation of what nachas is. It gives me a lot of nachas to see your programming change over several years and like watch you establish yourself even further and like attain the reputation that you have and acquire the audience that you have. You know, like just like being somebody who's like in the audience and like being a part of a group of people that get to experience your work is really gratifying, but also like as your friend and somebody who knows you in all these different ways, to see it on an interpersonal level, like it gives me so much. It gives me like a sense of hope that like the whole of cinema will be fine. Like I really believe this. Like we will continue to get to show work and be in and among the nightlife and like make these things, and I'm so glad that you're going to keep doing it. I just can't wait for you to open up this theater.
I know.
I really cannot wait. It's going to be so exciting.
I know. I know.
You're going to get that big suitcase full of money that fell off. You're going to find it, and it's going to open your theater.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's absolutely.
But I just want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. This has been one of our longer conversations, but I'm not at all surprised. And I would love to continue to follow Caroline's work, you know, as she prepares for her next short film. You know, stay connected with her. What's the best way to stay connected with you? Through Twitter?
Sadly, for now, yeah. I mean, I guess so until they delete it. I'm on Twitter at Caroline Avenue, AVENUE, like spelled out. For now, and the link in my bio is the crowdfunding page for my film, and it will show you what the film is about and how much money we have so far, which is pretty cool. And you'll get to see like a little thing of it that I shot. I guess I guess I should like make a better website. I'm so bad at this stuff. You know,
it's hard. You know, it really is hard. But
like not to. I'm very glad that I got to make my Instagram live debut under the auspices of talking to you about your programming, because I wouldn't want it any other way. But like, I hate this. I hate the internet, but I love it too. It's like I'm torn, right? Like
honestly,
it's tough.
The truth is, you know, being able to capture these moments with, you know, people like yourself, people like Aladdin just joined, so I'm definitely gonna shout her out. Even Yasmina, And you know, everyone who I have coming up, you know, I love that now we have a document together, you know, where we're talking about film in a real critical way, because, you know, that's not captured on screen, like, at least, you know, what outside of a paywall. Like these have kind of felt like simultaneously like film class, and then also just, you know, conversations with people who are really doing the work, you know, because as much as you could go to film school and, you know, you could take Spike Lee's course, like, yeah, I mean, he's not the one operating a cinema that's going to eventually screen your film. Like, this is the conversation you should be listening to. This is real.
Yes, all the glamour, all the glitz and glamour of independent film exhibition right here in your living room. It's remarkable. And I don't want to like relentlessly bag on social media entirely, because obviously, like, you know, if you love movies, like, you meet people on social media and that's how you like connect with them. And it's a great site for film discussion. It's how we promote our screenings. It's how we promote our work and ourselves. And it's just, it's another one of those things that I wish was also like cooperatively owned. Like, I wish we all owned Twitter and Instagram too. But you know, but we're not there yet. We will be one day though. You got to believe, as we say at Citi Field.
We gotta believe. We gotta believe. Thank you all again for tuning in this evening. To learn more about our crowdfunding efforts, please visit the links in our bio. GoFundMe, easily found through Alfreda Cinema. You know, and just spread the word. Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.
They always talking about how we young people never try to do nothing but use dope and kill each other up in the streets. Then when we try to do something the way they say it's supposed to be done, they mess with us and try to shut us down.